Excellent. Well, thank you. Happy Friday to everyone. I'm super excited that you were able to join us here today. Um, it's been a busy week. It's been a crazy year. And it's always nice to be able to kind of speak inside of the community, offer our help and expertise any way we can, especially in crazy times such as these. So today, we're going to talk about the idea of recovery and revitalization and how we're going to be able to use our digital marketing platforms to kind of drive sale, drive innovation, and kind of help move through all of this together and hopefully come out the other side of it not only stable, but actually maybe possibly in a better spot than how we came into it. So again, thank you all for joining us today. Hi, is everyone there? Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yep, you're good. Everyone can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Welcome to 2020, ladies and gentlemen, where technical difficulties are the soup du jour. So give me a second to recalibrate. My apologies. And I'm still sharing, right?
I can't see your presentation. You're just big on my screen.
Okay, give me a sec.
No, you're good.
Yeah, for some reason, like my whole thing shut down.
Like you said, welcome to 2020.
Yeah, right. All right, let's try this again. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yep.
All right. Huh. Okay, let's try this again. Hi, everyone. Welcome to 2020, where there are no wrong answers. So where was I? So I'm Craig Kazza. I'm the vice president here at Quantum Dynamics. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, hopefully that's a platform that will function better than the internet. What I was saying is, if you'd like to share who you are and what business you're with in the chat, that'd be a great way to kind of just get the chats open, kind of get communication rolling. Because I'm going to ask a couple of questions as we go through today's presentation to just kind of get, help me understand where you guys are from a business marketing communication standpoint. If you're interested in visiting my company, you can see the web address on screen, quantumdynamics.net. Feel free to check us out, see a little bit of what we do. We are Lancaster-based, focusing on website design and digital marketing solutions for the masses. So one of the things I always like to start these type of conversations with is just kind of a recalibration of what marketing really is to me and what our kind of philosophical standpoint is when we work with our clients. And in our mindset, marketing is a long-term relationship. It's a long-term engagement. Marketing is a journey and not just a transaction. It's not just how many people you can get to a website, how many widgets you can sell on a given day, but it's how you can take your marketing and sales platforms and kind of create a nurtured relationship that builds clients, builds customers, and ultimately in the end, it's a way to kind of build advocacy for your business and brand. So That's the important to understand. It is a long-term strategy, and I always like to think of it as the idea of an actual journey and an actual trip. So typically when you think about the trip you're trying to plan, you typically think about where that trip starts. And I know right now we all want to take trips, so if you want to share where you'd like to go on a trip in the chats, have at it, folks. But I always think about what type of trip I want to have when I start my planning process. Do I want a beach trip? Do I want to go cross country? And then what I do next is I figure out all those little points along the way that I want to stop at. Where are those all those little points I want to have some type of engagement with my overall trip? And then I realize and I create the path that connects all those dots together to get me ultimately to my final destination. And when we think about our marketing strategies and our marketing platforms, we want to think about not only about the beginning of who our customers are and the end of what we want to actually have them sell them, whether that be a product or a service or anything in between. We want to think about all the little engagements that we need them to take along the way. What do they need to engage with along their buyer's journey to actually make that final sale, close that engagement, and then make a nurtured relationship that's going to turn into a lifelong relationship and is going to make a brand advocate for you and your business. So it is broader than just thinking about how much I'm selling and what frequency we're selling. And the challenge is, and I think this is kind of the scope of today's conversation, is that with everything that's happened with COVID-19 and with the pandemic as a whole, and there's been broad changes inside of our business communities on how our clients and our customers engage with us. The journey is different now because the needs are different now. And I think there's times when there's any big change such as this that we have to think about some of the recalibrations that need to occur along the way. How can we make those adjustments to reinvent ourselves, be nimble, be agile, and meet our customers on our terms? Because when we think about how we revitalize, how we kind of, come back stronger than we were before, uh, we need to think about what that plan is, and then we need to stop and think about how we're going to communicate that effectively and efficiently back to our clients and our customers. We have to realize that this is more than just reopening and innovating. Businesses are going to have to stop and pause and encourage customers to come back to the fold. They're going to have to stop and make sure that we are re-communicating to them our value propositions, what makes us special and unique, and really get them back into the door. This is, I put the graphic of Field of Dreams up behind this because this is not that kind of Field of Dreams build and they'll come kind of situation. There's going to have to be a lot more efforts that go in to bringing those customers back in our doors, and them coming back in the doors is going to be different than it was before. So that's kind of the framework of the conversation we're going to have today. So where are we actually going today? Two kind of major pillars of the conversation. First, we're going to understand our audiences. We're going to understand the platforms that they're engaging in. So we're going to help understand and define who our audiences are, how they've changed, and potentially some of the things they're looking for now that we are kind of responding to the pandemic and as we come out of the pandemic and some of the restrictions that have been placed upon us along the way. And then the second half of that is now that we have an understanding of the audience, we're going to talk about how we create and communicate our voice to them clearly, consistently, frequently, in creating those brand advocates, and then have a whole conversation about the various platforms and methodologies we are using to engage them with. So that's kind of a broad brushstroke of what we're going to do today. So first, let's take a moment, and let's understand our audiences as a whole. And I offer you a warning of sorts, is that at times, this is going to feel a little overwhelming. There's going to be a lot of information. There's going to be a lot of characteristics we need to think about. Maybe you're a business that has multiple audiences you try to serve in vastly different ways. It can be overwhelming, and I understand that. I get that multiple times a day. It's okay. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. Because there are so many platforms, there's so many strategies, there's so many different ways you can market to your overall consumer. And sometimes it's hard to understand the best combination of those platforms are going to be the right ones for your business. That's not uncommon. And then on top of that, COVID's changed everything. It's changed behaviors. It's changed habits. And we're still learning. We still don't have a complete roadmap on what, the consumer trends are going to look like when we come out of this. But what has not changed is that we as a business, from time to businesses and business owners and sales, business developers and salespeople and whatever your title may be, it has not changed that from time to time we have to pause, we have to go back and we have to look at who we're trying to sell to, who we're trying to market to, and then make choices, decisions based on what we know they're looking for. We have to put ourselves and our clients and our customers' shoes. And if we're not doing that, if we're not thinking about how the consumer sees us, then we're not necessarily doing an effective job from a marketing standpoint. And so before we get overwhelmed by all the things that have changed, or all the platforms that exist, all the different type, ways they can engage with us, let's pause. Let's take it back a step. Let's make it more manageable, not get so overwhelmed, and let's just think about who our buyers are. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys, I'm kind of curious, for the people who are, in today's conversation, how many of you on hand actually have a buyer persona? How many of you actually stopped and taken the effort to construct what your buyer looks like and what they sound like? So go ahead and in the chat, I'll give it a couple seconds. Yes or no? Do you have kind of that idea of who your target audience is, or more importantly, like the buyer persona? This will be a great opportunity for me to grab water. Perfect. Getting a couple of responses in. This is great. And no is an okay answer. Yes is an okay answer. Maybe is an okay answer if we're not totally sure. Interesting. I like how someone refers to it as a client avatar. I think that's an interesting terminology there. And I like that. I also like at some level how everyone has a different vernacular for this. So we'll give this a couple more seconds, see if anyone else wants to kind of like jump into the conversation. And if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. But I see kind of a wide range of things. So let's talk about the idea of a buyer persona. For those of you who are not familiar with the concept, we spend a lot of time in our lives talking about like the idea of target audiences, who we're trying to sell to. But the buyer persona actually flips the script on that a little bit for those of you who are not familiar, and it basically creates a fictitious persona of the ideal customers that you're trying to work with, and really starts to try to break into their psychology, the way and reasons they make the choices they do, and how they actually engage with your business. And so really in the end, it's not just about the demographics of that consumer. It's not just about, income, profession, location, gender. It's, more than understanding that it's a family person with 2.5 kids and a dog. It goes out of just the demographics, and it really starts breaking out into kind of the psychographics or the psychology of the buyer. So it really starts diving into their type of lifestyle. It really goes into what they value, what their goals are, what their fears and aspirations are. It really kind of goes into like the challenges of why they may not choose your solution or your product, and also gives you an opportunity to kind of think about what are those ways that you can take the challenges that a consumer has and position your product or service to kind of be the answer to those solutions. So it really asks a lot of questions and really kind of starts building a framework that helps you understand why that person makes choices they do and how to better engage them, down to the point it helps you understand the kind of right word choice and language choice to communicate back with them. So if you don't have a buyer persona, or you haven't recently updated your buyer persona, that's something I'd always recommend doing. And if you need help or assistance with that, we have some easy tools that we can send to you. We can walk you through on how you can kind of take an hour of your life and just kind of walk through how things have changed over the last couple months. Really important. I can't emphasize enough to go through that experience and to kind of really try to put yourself in their shoes. I wanted to take a moment, though, as you think about that buyer persona and think about how your business is responding to your consumers, to think about a couple things that consumers in today's world are trying to think about it. And we've kind of simplified this and pared this down to 4 kind of key areas and key categories that our audiences are really thinking about, especially as we move through the pandemic and as we're hopefully coming through a revitalization process. First of all, I think our audiences are looking for convenience. So much has changed, so much has become incredibly complicated, and convoluted. And I think in this day and age, especially in a digital world, our consumers more than anything else need our businesses to be convenient and to be accessible. And I think if there are frictions or roadblocks along the way, it's going to cause them to make a choice to go with a larger organization, a larger player that is going to have possibly more resources to kind of provide this convenience. So if there's any way at a local level we can make our businesses more convenient and accessible, that's going to prove to our benefit. Uh, they need businesses to be clear. They need them to be consistent. They need them to be on message and on point, with sharing the same information every time in the right ways. Clarity has been probably one of the areas at the local level I've seen the biggest challenges. And we understand that as small business owners, we all wear lots of hats. So clarity is something that we have to pause and make sure that we are making a paramount concern. I'll talk about some ways on how clarity has become a problem and ways you can kind of alleviate that. Safety is obviously the prime concern in terms of operating a person to person business in this day and age. And I will not belabor the safety point a ton because I'm sure that we all know the script at this point about maintaining distances and wearing masks and providing sanitation options. But I think as it relates to today's conversation and how we communicate, how we revitalize, and maybe even how we innovate, I think it's important to remind ourselves that consumers need to see the safety measures, not just have an understanding that you may be taking them. And then finally, I think people just want to feel normal. And I think any way that we as business owners can feel normal will be to your benefit moving forward. So take a second as you look at these kind of four main categories, and we're going to dive into them a little more specifically. Take a moment to see how many of these check boxes you feel like you are. Are you convenient? Are you clear with your consumers? Are you outwardly safe? And are you trying your best to make things feel normal? Take a moment and just give yourself a score of 1 to 4. Drop that in the chat, and let's see how we all think we're doing before we start diving into some of the ideas on how we can check those boxes a little bit more consistently. So we'll give this a couple seconds. Feel free to drop a 0 to 4 answer on how many of those check boxes you feel like you've hit. And maybe if we have time here at the end, for anyone that feels like they haven't hit check boxes, maybe we'll have a little bit of a opportunity to kind of talk about how we could possibly check additional one off. And this will be interesting as you guys kind of think about this, about being convenient, about being clear and safe and normal. It'll be curious to see get a kind of benchmark across the community on where we feel like we are and where we do feel like we are succeeding. We'll give this maybe about 15 more seconds. Feel free to drop again. How many of these do you feel like you're succeeding at in this day and age? We're getting some, we're getting some. I definitely appreciate the response of the nothing seems normal. That's a fair response. I think there's some accuracy to that. And we'll talk about that idea of normalcy and both that concept of both leaning into it and how nothing feels normal, but also understanding that part of our personality is to we as humans haven't changed. Our businesses have changed. The world has changed. We as business leaders may hopefully haven't changed that much. So we got into kind of mixed response, and it feels like a lot of people are kind of in the middle. They have a couple check boxes. They don't have all the check boxes, and that's to be expected as we go through something that is as big and as drastic as this has been. So let's dive into a couple of these areas. Let's talk first about the idea of convenience. And when we think about the idea of convenience, how are we providing convenient resources that allow our clients and customers to engage with our business in a way that doesn't feel overly complicated or lots of extra steps? And the goal of what you're trying to do here in this idea of trying to be a convenient business is to minimize the friction that someone goes through to try to engage with you. the more complicated you are to engage with, whether you're a big business, small business, whether you're doing, whether you're a restaurant or retail or professional services, the more inconvenient you are, the less likely someone is going to engage with you or engage with you in the future. So let's talk about the idea at first. Let's do the first couple audiences we want to talk about is if you're in that kind of restaurant, entertainment, retail spaces, because your ability to be convenient is probably the easiest in terms of the accessibility of tools available to you. And all of these tools are things that you can think about as making modifications to your current websites to provide better services to your overall clients. So if you sell a product, we're talking, any product at whatsoever, do you have the online shopping tools available at your disposal to make that process convenient? And everyone stops and thinks about the world of online shopping as being an overly expensive and complicated affair, and it can be. But there are tools now out there that make it easier for small businesses to adopt online solutions for online shopping and for fulfillment than ever before. So for those of you who have a website, particularly if it's built in WordPress, adding WooCommerce to your website is a great, easy tool that allows you to get a store up and running, quick and easy, integrated with your website, that allows you to move products as fast as you can sell them. It's clean, it's elegant, it's easy to use. You can hire a professional like us to help modify it, or you could try to kind of get things up and running. But if you already have that WordPress website, use the tool that already integrates with it. Not to mention, WooCommerce and the tools like that have so many additional plugins and options that whenever you think about something you might need, there are plugins at your disposal to make it happen. Whether you want to set up, local pickup options, whether you want to kind of, do, kind of like organized fulfillment options, there's a way in WooCommerce that you can access those tools. Now, if you don't have a website or you don't really have a great robust website, or it's not WordPress or some type of similar tool set, there are also online options that allow you to start selling and moving products quickly and easily at low expense to your organization. Start thinking about tools like PayPal and Square, who, if you're already using Square in your kind of brick and mortar, this is a tool that allows you to already kind of start integrating some of those selling features and kind of, put them into a website, or even kind of start building something from scratch. It's, it's a solution that is, better than not having anything. Squarespace also allows you to kind of build sites quickly. That might have some online selling options available to you. And frankly, if worst comes to worst, and you kind of have a streamlined product solution, you could even consider options like putting things on Facebook Marketplace. We're actually, I've been talking to a couple of business owners that's exactly what they do, because they picked kind of the handful of items that sell the best, maybe have the best margins for them, and they're just using platforms that are already out there that may already be free to them, that can kind of connect with their business and kind of allows them to have engagement overall. So in the end, are there tools out there that can make your business more convenient to work with? So that's kind of the online shopping category. And kind of tangential to that is the idea of, like, are you offering pickup and delivery options? you know are you a business, and this is not even on the website now, are you a business that can facilitate curbside pickup options? There are pickup option plugins that are available for WooCommerce and for your websites out there that make scheduling pickups way easier. All they have to do is complete an order, pick a time they want to come pick it up. There it is. Bam, we're done. Um, that doesn't work. Think about creating, contact forms to talk about like scheduling pickups and along those lines. Or frankly, particularly if you're a restaurant, consider using, options like, Uber Eats and Grubhub, because people may be stuck in their homes, or people may not be, super, comfortable with running around, traveling places. Find those convenience options that make it easier and simpler to work with your business. And I will tell you, in regards to some of I'll get to the next point. This next category is really designed if you're a professional service. You're a person that works with longer engagements, and frankly, not being able to network, not being able to be in the office, not being able to meet clients in a conference room, it's made it tricky. It's been a challenge. And so are there ways that you as a business can adopt remote options to make working with your business easier? A lot of us have used Zoom. I know we probably all have Zoom fatigue at this point, but there's nothing wrong with finding ways to make the client engagements through Zoom feel easier. You know, adopt digital signature tools like DocuSign, so people don't have to run around and try to find scanners. Um, if you're a professional service, particularly if you're a new business, business development, look at ways to add online appointment scheduling tools to your website, so someone can go to your website, wants to have a conversation with you, and wants to put it on their calendar right away. Online scheduling tools have been proven to increase conversion engagement on websites, especially in the world of professional services, lawyers, accountants, wealth management, things like that. And then the other two options are thinking about how we as consumers at this point want the convenience of talking with someone. We want someone to talk with them now. And sometimes picking up the phone is not always the most comfortable thing. Consider adding chatbots or messenger services to your website. Let people actually talk to you online through those services, so you can actually start creating direct engagement with your consumer right on the website, particularly if they're having challenges or problems. Chatbots are cool because chatbots, you can actually pre-program responses into it, so you don't even have to be monitoring it all the time. It can just be running automated responses based on your most commonly asked questions, and then escalate it if there's a question it can't respond to. So these are kind of the convenience options that you could consider adopting as a business, whether that be online shopping, remote options. The moral of this story, and I kind of want to convey here, is that some of these convenience options are not going to go away. These convenience options are going to probably become the fabric of consumers moving forward. So look at that list, figure out if your business is being convenient enough, or is there ways to make it easier to work with your business? Here's a great example. I was shopping for garland because I can't find any Christmas garland around. So one of the places I could find garland was the Walmart website. And so I'm here on the Walmart website. I have garland, I have craft paint, I have a couple different items I've added to my cart. Super convenient, shop, find the products, added to the cart. Great. I go to click the checkout. And this is the message that I receive. Sorry, an error has occurred. Please return to your cart. Doesn't tell me what the error is. It doesn't tell me why. It doesn't tell me what I need to fix. And so this is a system that has been started to be implemented in an era of convenience. But this convenience has been disrupted by an unknown issue. So when we look at creating these convenience services, I think it's important to stop and pause and look at what we're doing and make sure that it's fully functional, fully working the way we intend it to be. Because this is a disruptive situation that lost them business because I didn't know what the error was. I figured out somewhere else to go. And the issue, if you're curious, is because I had items that were at different locations. So I had one at one Walmart location, one at another Walmart location, and I could not change which location to pick things up, and it just caused fatal error. So whatever you do, make sure you take a full comprehensive look at your convenience services and make sure that they're working the way you intend and hope they're going to be. So let's talk about clarity. This is one of the biggest challenges that I've seen with businesses this day and age, especially as we're going through everything with the pandemic, is that maintaining a clear message has been a really difficult challenge. There's a lot of platforms out there. There's a lot of things happening, and things are changing all the time. And so I understand that it is difficult to provide that level of clarity consistently. But I will tell you, as someone who has stood out in front of restaurants thinking that they are open and then they don't end up being open, it's troubling that that there's not some due diligence in this. So let's take a moment and think about where we need our message to be consistent and clear. Make sure that you are communicating a clear message on your website that is consistent with what your social media platforms are saying, that is consistent with what your Google business is saying. And if you're not sure what your Google business is, it's that little map pack that appears in Google search when you type your name, and it says your hours of operation, your phone number, your office location. Make sure that you're going into that your Google business settings and making sure that it's consistent with what your website's saying and what your social media is saying, or any other business directories you're involved in. And what are we looking to be clear? hours of operations or days of operations. When are you open? I will tell you, I've seen so many businesses that the website says one thing, social media says one thing, Google says something absolutely differently. And frankly, at this point, if I cannot find the consistency, I can't do I'm not doing business with someone if they're not maintaining those consistent messages, because I don't want to go and realize it's closed. So make sure hours of operation, days of operation are consistent. Also, on top of that, make sure that it is clear what services and options you're offering at any given point in time. Have you pared down a menu? Are you only offering so many people in a store? Are you only doing, X services? Make sure it's clear that the expectations have been set on what you are doing at any given point in time. Safety protocols are another part of that. I know the safety situation and the regulation changes and impacts are constantly shifting on us. So it is important to try to stay nimble and clear and direct about how those impact us. And if you're offering any special services, particularly like senior hours or anything like that, web options, scheduling appointments, make sure you're just very clear and transparent on what those options you're offering are. So safety, this is the one we'll move through the quickest because I'm pretty sure we're all could recite this now in our sleep. We probably have nightmares about it at this point. Let's think about, not only are we doing these things, are we cleaning properly or offering those sanitation options for people who want them? Are we that we're not only kind of consistently allowing people to maintain proper distance or restricting the capacity based on the ability to maintain those distances? Not only are we protecting our staff and our customers by asking for people to wear masks, safety protocols, providing sanitizer, whatever those options may be, especially as it gets colder, but then more importantly, on top of that, are we clearly communicating in our messaging that we are providing those safety options for people? If we are not on a consistent, regular basis, there's a likelihood that someone is looking at possibly wanting to go out, wanting to go to a business, wanting to do shopping, wanting to engage with clients, customers, but they don't feel comfortable doing it because no one has reassured them that they are safe. So it is important that is part of the drumbeat of our message right now. Finally, back to this, nothing feels normal. 2020 has been incredibly heavy. Hey, there is no secret answer here either about what we can do to make things feel normal. We have been through a lot, and it is going to continue to be a lot. And I will tell you, as someone who is drained and exhausted with you, that all I want to do is feel happy and normal again. I want things to be back to the way they were. And the challenge is that, at some level it can be, at some level it's not going to be. And I think the biggest thing that we have to do as these kind of business warriors, if you will, is, put on the happy front, saying that we are going to do the best we can to make you feel comfortable. You look at that beach picture, and doesn't that feel nice to be at a beach somewhere and hear the waves coming in? Whatever we can do to make people be the most comfortable, the most happy, the most satisfied, it's going to go a long way for you. We cannot be angry. We cannot be frustrated at some level. We can be honest. We can be sincere. We can express how we're feeling, but then we have to try to do our best to make people see that we are doing our best effort to bring it together. So that got a little heavy. We're going to take a little mental break for a second. Just everyone breathe in, breathe out. Hopefully you picked up a couple ideas and things you can do, maybe some alterations you can make to your website or even to your business as a whole. Offer some curbside pickup, offer some extra Zoom meetings, schedule some appointments. Let's take a little mental break. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's look at some cute baby animals. That's a baby hedgehog eating watermelon. That is not the most adorable thing ever. Baby duckbill platypus. It's a creature with a beak, but it's still a mammal. It's so cute. Look, here's a baby squirrel. This squirrel will one day eat through all of my pumpkins and tear up all of my mums, but he's still cute right now. Here's a quokka. This is a marsupial that all it does is eat and smile, which basically describes the last 9 months of my life, just eating and smiling. So, cute baby animals, self-help, breathe in. Hopefully we feel a little better. I think what's important as we think about our cute baby animals and all of this is that, you know, it is a important part to understand that we have been through so much and that we need to do the things in our lives to kind of remind people that we're all in this together, that we all just want to be in that happy space, that we sometimes need to take a moment and just kind of, go for that self-help option, feel better about ourselves. And more than ever, we need to understand that when we speak to our clients and customers, they're going through the same thing too. So there are not islands at the moment. So every once in a while, pull up a picture of baby animals or take a mental break. And don't forget that when you communicate, when you think about what we need to do, that you have to be that authentic self. You have to be sincere. And so we're going to talk about voice now. And we're going to talk about the marketing message that we're hoping to convey across your business. And I think the most important thing that we think about this and about everything we've gone through is how we're going to define and redefine our voice. I say to a lot of people, don't let this define you. Let this redefine you. So let's look at creating a new voice that reflects our authenticity moving forward. And the first part of that is just being honest about what we're going through and what we're trying to where we're trying to get to. Be honest about how this has changed your business, and be direct about what people can do to help you. That means finding that warm tone online that's going to comfort, it's going to reassure, it's not going to feel overly panicked, but it is going to be honest. And at some point, this may be going back and redefining your value proposition. I've seen a lot of businesses who pride themselves on being the best X in the county, the best accountant, the best lawyer, the best, insert business here. And while that might be great, maybe now we need to be the friend list, or we need to be the most convenient. What is the thing that right now today is going to kind of meet those 4 check boxes we went through earlier? Try to find the way to meet the customer on their terms right now and allow those changes to kind of, fit into your future plan. And with that, find your place in the community. We are all in the community because we offer something unique. We offer something special, and champion why you're an important part of the community, why your business belongs to be in this community, and why people should start engaging with you. So that's just kind of like understanding our voice. The second half is taking that voice now and creating those brand advocates that have helped you build a business up to this point. Those brand advocates are going to be the ones that help propel your business through this and well into the future. These customers are the ones that know you're good. You know you're good. And now use that base to create an army of happy warriors that are going to go out and advocate for your business into the broader community. So let's talk about a couple ways that we can create that advocacy. Be direct with your fans and your already existing audiences. You already have them. You have them in social media. You have them maybe in your direct email campaigns or email campaigns. You already have this list of advocate fans for your business. Now's the time to enlist them, to engage them, and to explain to them very directly how they can support and help you now. And maybe open a dialogue on how you can help and support them, which is a great way, honestly, going back to the idea of buyer personas and understanding who our personas are. Having those direct conversations with those people and hearing it from their own words is some of the best things we can do right now as business owners, is listen to our fans and what they need from us and pivot and adjust on their terms. Encourage in everything you do that your advocates share and support you. Have them share it out to a broader network. Maybe you need to incentivize it a little. Maybe you need to offer them some type of promotion or a giveaway to encourage a sharing. But get people to share your business to their audiences because they support you. They want to continue supporting you. You hope they want to continue working with you. Get them to do some of that legwork for you because right now it's going to take a village for all of us to get through this together. On top of that, find local business partners. Find businesses in your local spaces that are related to you, kind of connected to you, tangential, who you guys can work with in a kind of connected marketing strategy to build some synergy. So if you have businesses that are nearby or kind of you guys partner with on a regular basis, share the marketing load a little bit. Start doing conjoined marketing campaigns with them. Use business X and business Y because we're teaming together. If you can find those ways to kind of find those partners, you're going to open yourself to their networks. They're going to open them to your networks, and it's going to create a broader advocacy base because you have created a team behind you. And on top of that, whether you find those partners or not, you as business owners share locally with everything else that's going on, whether it's community events, whether it's community organizations, whether it's other businesses that you just like to go to. Find those ways to start those kind of cross community dialogues around the area. These are the best ways to kind of create those create those advocates. And the reality is that it's all kind of golden rule stuff. It's just about being good to people and sharing love. And if you share love with people, they will hopefully share it back with you. One of the areas I wanted to kind of stop and draw this out because I thought one of the best examples of some of this stuff about creating and defining a voice, about being honest, came from the folks over at Zoetropolis. And I don't know if some of you have probably seen this in social media because it's gotten a lot of traction. These are just kind of two recent posts from the folks over at Zoetropolis about the challenges they've had right now, and the fact that they literally open it up with like honesty time, and they're talking about about going into the trenches and about the challenges they're facing, and how they want to be part of this community. They want to keep being an anchor in the ways they are, and they need some help right now. And there's a lot of businesses that just need some help right now, and there are ways that you as your own business can reach out in very similar ways, saying this is where we're at. This is how you can help us right now. It's not overly desperate. It's not overly needy. It's said with a level of authenticity and honesty that I think a lot of people can appreciate. Look at those ways you can kind of mimic some of these communication styles. And what they did is that they took their tone of voice and made it so it was approachable, made it so you understood the situation that they are in, and realize if you're already liking an organization like Zoe, you like going there. You like them for a reason, and you would hope that you want to continue to see or businesses like that continue to thrive. And you can notice it may be a little hard to read on monitors, but at the time that I screen capped this, they had almost 1,000 engagements and likes. They had hundreds of comments. They got almost shared 1,000 times. That's a lot of engagement. That's a lot of networks it opened up to. And you think about every time that it got shared to someone put it on their wall, that got seen by more and more people. So that's what honesty gets you. It gets you the honest support you need. There's no need to hide it. There's no need to mask it. Again, don't sound desperate. Don't sound needy. Just be honest, be warm, be gentle, and let people know what you want. Be actionable. Even to the point that here in the second post, but I like this is like the image is very direct. How can I help? Use your images, use your videos, use your communications to explain to people what they need to do, what action you'd like to see from them. So the other part that I think a lot of businesses have had a challenge with is not only how they're communicating and how they're building those audiences, but then the frequency of how they're communicating. And this is one of the biggest challenges, especially for small businesses, is that our communication platforms are second to running our business. Our marketing, our sales are second to opening the doors every day, turning the lights on every day. And it's always that kind of classic kind of, the cobbler's kids don't have shoes kind of principle. The most important thing we can do right now is to not go dark. Your businesses has to keep communicating. in whatever way possible, even if it means that right now you're running on limited schedule, or maybe you're even not open at the moment because of everything. Keep communicating, keep talking. Do not let your marketing and communications go cold, because one of the biggest things pre all this was top of mind awareness. Your business has to remain top of mind awareness. With everything else going on, that's more important than ever before. So the best ways to ensure that we're communicating on a regular basis: create a schedule and then stick to it. Create a schedule that allows you to engage on social or email marketing or updates to your website, but create a schedule that you can follow, and make sure that schedule is something that is realistically attainable. If you're going to go out and say, I'm going to manage 10 platforms, that's not a realistic strategy. Or I'm going to, send 4 emails a week. Maybe not a realistic strategy unless you've got the staff to support it. So make sure whatever schedule you create that you can stick to and is realistic. Next, whatever you do, promote everything. Whether that's reopening, whether that's discounts, whether that's, some type of event you're trying to safely hold, whatever you do, everything has to get promoted in some capacity. And maybe that's, more importantly, like, think about like what new services you can have or what innovations you can project. Once you create that innovation, that idea of like going to market with it involves the promotion of that. So, I think one of the great examples I've seen here in the city is the Belvedere is putting those table pods on their patio. That's innovation. That's something that's going to stick around probably after this pandemic too, so that people can enjoy outside eating in the winter. Those type of things, you can do them, but then you have to go promote them from your business perspective. On top of that, just be cognizant, respect people's safety needs. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Make sure that we're meeting them on their safety terms. And again, like we kind of emphasized about that idea of being convenient, provide, discuss, communicate the options you've provided them from a convenience standpoint, and make sure that you don't just say it once and be like, well, you have to keep telling people. You have to kind of keep reinforcing it. It may feel repetitive, but it's important that people kind of see the constant drumbeat of how you're connecting, engaging with them. Communicating often is so important. So there's some of the ideas on how we need to communicate. So let's take a moment in the last couple minutes that I have here with you and talk about some of the platforms that we have available to us. The 3 major platforms I'm going to talk about in terms of like what you can utilize today, right now, are email marketing, social media, and then also the idea of some mail and traditional kind of print applications. The reason I kind of picked these 3 is that early on we talked about a lot of the things that you need to be doing from a web standpoint in terms of like adding new features, adding new convenience options, adding the clarity to the content that you have. These options here on the screen right now are 3 options that are easily accessible, easily attainable, and a lot of times low or no cost to you and your business. So easy to get started right now today with starting to get some of these ideas out into the ethos. Let's start with social media. That is the easiest, the most accessible one. There are countless social media options out there for you to choose from based on the type of business you have. So a little different from how we approached this before. Let's talk about now how and why you might be using some of these platforms. So when you go to social media, you want to think about the fact that the purpose of social media is to establish your voice, to tell your story, and to kind of build long lasting relationships inside of your already populated community of supporters. So, realize that, you want to, as a business, constantly encourage people to like your social media platforms, everywhere you go, whether that be inside your business, inside your emails, spoken out loud. Make sure that people are liking your business in the social media platforms that you have chosen, to make sure you are building that audience that you want to communicate to. Because the audience of social media are people who most likely have already engaged with you. They're people who already kind of know your business, are passionate about it, they like it. So it has limited ability to connect with new customers. It's really more about kind of supporting and nurturing the audience you already have. And note that with a little asterisk, you can use social media to find new audiences, but that's typically through the paid options. You're about doing social media ads to audiences, which is a great, if you're trying to find new audiences, using that paid those paid options is an absolutely great way to do it, because you have so much control in creating and selecting the grouping of that audience. But if you're looking for affordability, those paid options can get a little pricey, particularly on how hard you want to run at it. So just be aware of that. That I'm not necessarily talking about paid options in this, although we can, if that's something you guys want to ask during the Q&A. And I think the biggest thing from a goal standpoint is to be realistic, is that you're trying to create that nurturing storytelling environment, that authenticity about who your brand is. It's your spoken language. It's not so much corporate speak. So make sure that with what you're doing in that social platform, whether that be video, whether that be pictures, whether that be the actual words, that it maintains that personality, that authenticity that you're looking for. It's great for promotions too. It's particularly rapid, quick promotions. If you did Cyber Monday stuff, social media is a great way to get that out to broader audiences. If you're doing, restaurants and meal specials, or, that's great. If you're professional services like myself, maybe it's free consultations, maybe it's free quotes, maybe it's, a 30-minute, dialogue with someone on how they can make a website better, just shooting some ideas out there. Make sure there's a great way to offer those promotions and try to get those conversions. And the frequency is pretty often. Social media algorithms and platforms, populate those walls in various different ways, especially if you're a business. It's a little tricky to get on those walls. So, you have to have a regular drumbeat to it. You have to do it with a level of frequency. And one of the things I don't necessarily talk about in a slide per se, but something to consider, is that if you're a business and organization that's running through social media platforms, make sure that you've communicated that you're doing that to your staff and team, and then ask them very politely if they would not mind sharing the company's information on their personal platforms. I would not make it mandatory, just something to consider. And for your employees, who I'd assume like to continue staying employed, they'll most likely comply, because it's helping the cause right now. So, email marketing is another great, inexpensive tool that you can use to engage with your audiences. And again, this is more about engaging with your existing audiences than with new ones. And the thing that I think a lot of people think is that, email is a slug. Email doesn't do very well. Surprisingly, the open rates are still 20 and 30%. So if you think about putting a lot of time in social media, realize that your email campaigns are probably going to get campaign to campaign, going to get more eyeballs than your social media campaigns, and provides a level of metrics and click that can kind of direct your audience around what you're looking for them to do in terms of a call to action. So again, the purpose here is about regular promotions. If you're or frankly, even just like thought leadership and content ideas, especially if, again, you're in those kind of B2B worlds where you're trying to share ideas and maintain a top of mind awareness or promote a new service. That's kind of where email sweet spot really is. So, again, the audience here is past customers, loyal advocates. You're trying to build that brand and build that kind of brand army to maintain top of mind awareness and kind of get to those kind of short-term conversion points that you're looking to get. I'll tell you from a local business standpoint, the frequency really depends on business to business and scale and size. Weekly is great if you can do it, particularly if you're a kind of retail. Weekly is probably optimum. Anything less at a retail level is probably going to get lost in that lost in the email box. Professional services, you can kind of stretch that a little bit more. So let's take a moment between those two platforms and talk about kind of just some places to go. And I've broken this up into 3 categories about where you might want to best find yourself from a social standpoint. If you're professional services, I think you've seen these classic ones before. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then your email campaigns are really great for, those in the professional service world. I really like I'm getting more into LinkedIn. I haven't always been the most diligent LinkedIn student, but it's a great platform. Retail wise, I think you're starting to move into your Facebooks and your Instagrams, things that are highly visual, highly graphic. Emails are still a great way to promote, especially sales specials and stuff like that. And Pinterest is also kind of a fun way to kind of get some sharing going on. And then I put a whole youth category over here, which you can see these are all the platforms that are kind of youth driven. I've added TikTok to the list because that is probably the area that I've had a lot of conversation with people about having the most youth brand oriented success. And here's just on the screen is just some baseline ideas of like how frequently you could post. Facebook, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, 1 or 2 times a day is great. LinkedIn is more of a weekly basis. Same thing with email. If you're doing any video work, video is great. Video has high engagement. In this day and age, especially in the era of Zoom, the quality doesn't even have to be that great. We all have cell phones at this point in day and age. And frankly, the camera on this thing is probably, better than professional grade cameras, a couple years ago. Here, and we're all going to get this chart later, but here's just a general baseline of some ideas on when to post. But every business is going to be different. There's no secret sauce to this, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. That there's a general baseline of posting. The other thing to think about is, looking at some of your own analytics to gauge how people are engaging. So the other thing I just want to touch real quickly is about the idea of traditional and print. It is not dead. It can still be useful, especially if you're going to kind of go, get a zip code list and kind of drop your information to a whole new audience. Sometimes traditional mailing is a great way to kind of get in front of some new audiences and kind of get some baseline conversion. So just something to consider, especially for the people who kind of are in that lovely print world. It's a great way to kind of promote things like reopenings, new services, and events. It can get a little pricier, but I think it's something worth considering. And this is kind of the big takeaway I want you to have out of all of this, is that all of these things we do in the digital or even marketing world, the website is always going to be your hub. The website is going to be where you want that most engagement, whether it's they're going to buy a product or services, they're going to schedule an appointment, they're going to use the contact form to start a conversation to get a quote. Whatever you do, your website has to be the hub for all that information. You are driving all that traffic back to the single digital source that is going to be able to measure success and properly convert your audiences. So if you don't have the convenient services, if you don't have the correct information or the right messaging, this is going to be a problem for you. And so I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to make sure that the website is the hub of everything we do. So here we are at the end of our hour. I fully appreciate what time we've had together. I apologize for the technical mishap at the beginning. Not sure what that was, but let's take a second and talk about what we can do next. What can we do today to kind of start thinking about how we're going to reshape our marketing and digital strategies to help us revitalize our business and stay engaged with our clients and customers. So first, let's think a moment about what we talked about with our audiences. Review who your customers are, review who your clients are. Make sure that your understanding of them is what you thought it was. What are their needs right now? How have they changed? And how has your business positioned itself to help them? How can you help your customers answer the problems and challenges they are facing in 2020? And there's a lot of them. How can you provide convenience? How can you provide clarity and consistency? How can you provide an understanding of safety? And how can you make things feel just a little bit normal again? So before you do anything, before you open up any social media platform or your website, think about your audience. Then think about how you're going to promote. Think about what your new voice is going to be. What is your messaging? How are you going to be more transparent and honest and authentic with those you're trying to communicate with? Promote everything you do. Share how you're making people feel safe. That might be putting pictures of social media of your staff cleaning tables. Make sure they see the due diligence that you have already taken. Create those brand advocates who are going to go out and promote you, and then find ways to communicate and activate them and figure out the platforms that are going to be best for you. And finally, everything you do, test. Make sure everything you do is intelligent and smart and measurable. Make changes to your voice, to your website, to your social media. Review the stats on them on a regular basis. See what's working, see what's not working. And then again, just at the end, make sure your website is the hub for your marketing and is properly converting traffic the way you hoped it would. So that was a lot of information. I really appreciate your guys' time today. I think as we kind of close out, it's the classic Winston Churchill quote. Now this is not the end, and it's not even the beginning of the end potentially, but perhaps it's the end of the beginning. I hope that we are past the 50% point of this, and I hope that progress is going to be swift, and recovery and revitalization are going to be amazing. And I think we as business owners now have to take those steps to make sure we are positioning ourselves best in the future. So again, Thank you for your time today. I'm Craig Kaza. I'm the Vice President of Quantum Dynamics. You can find me here on LinkedIn right here. And here is our website address, quantumdynamics.net. And with that, I will open the floor for any questions that people have. Thank you for your time today. It's been super awesome.
All right, so if everybody wants to, you can drop any questions you have in the chat feature. I'll give you a second to kind of type those in. I have one that I'll ask in the meantime. So when you were talking about posting frequency on all the different social platforms, how do you balance the line of oversaturation where somebody just kind of scrolls by and keeping your business top of mind to your consumers?
Sure. So just a couple things about that. Is, first, let's just talk about the idea of scheduling and kind of building that out. I would highly recommend just for an efficiency standpoint, utilizing the tools out there, such as Facebook message scheduling, Hootsuite, stuff like that. Use those automated tools out there to kind of make sure you can kind of have a dedicated schedule, manage it properly, manage it conveniently. Second, it's going to all be a little trial and error, in regards to, try a message, see how people responded to it. If they responded great, you found something that people like, kind of start replicating and maximizing those successes. If people didn't respond to it, then the thing is that probably, like you said, probably people just moved on. So something about that didn't work. Don't keep repeating that item. Find a new voice, find a new message. The other part about that is that the usage of video and the usage of imagery is super important in this category. So think about how we're using video and image to kind of promote a culture, make it so that it's not stock, that it's really showing an engagement that is going to make people stop. Social media is a lot of a conversation about the idea of quote unquote disruption. How are you kind of disrupting someone's day and getting them to stop? So if you can do something that's a little uncharacteristic, maybe a little unorthodox, a lot of fun. I think things like that are what get people to kind of stop. I think the thing about the stuff that Zoe was doing really well is that it opened up its message right away with look, we're going to be honest. This is going to be a long one. Stick with us. And I think that was a way that it caught a lot of people by surprise. And I think that's what got people to kind of stop and really read through that to kind of make that resonate the way it did. So I think there's a lot of ways to think about that. And again, it's going to be a little different for every business. So I think a combination of those are going to be the best way to kind of get businesses to kind of get the presence that they're looking for.
There we go. So can you also expand a little bit when you were on the social media side, kind of what it means to have paid social media and kind of how to utilize that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're paid digital is a great way to start finding new audiences. And I used paid digital in a broader sense because I look at paid digital as what we're doing inside of Google and search, PPC, pay per click if you're curious, versus what is happening in the social platforms. And I think both of them can be part of a balanced strategy because what you're able to do in both of those areas is define and refine your audiences, and then start actually promoting on very specific keywords or audience characteristics. So all of the major social media platforms have some type of paid mechanism inside of them that allows you to go in and create an ad, basically have a general sense of how much you're going to pay for that ad, define the audience you want it to engage with. And I'll tell you, social platforms have a better definition of audience because they have so much data points on the end user than your search. So you can talk about age and gender and basically job characteristics and kind of interest sets to create a paid campaign in social that's really going to be kind of engaging new audiences that may not know about you. And it's important that if you're going to do any of that paid social, that you really take the time and define that. Because I was actually working with a client very recently that had a paid campaign that was displaying in Iran. And I went to them like, you're in Iran right now. I don't think you're picking up customers there. And so, but it was just because it wasn't the definitions weren't set up the way they wanted to. So it's important to make sure you're defining that. So if you're local, you're not going to really want to go more than a county or a couple counties out. If you're kind of a super regional, you can open it up to a couple states. So it offers that great definition. And then the one other thing I'll say about social, paid social, and I'll let it go, is that there's the idea of retargeting campaigns as well, which means putting the Facebook pixel or the Google tag manager on your website, seeing the traffic that has come to your website, and then re-promoting that to people who have already had some experience with you. And those retargeting campaigns can be very powerful in maintaining top of mind awareness. So there's a lot of different flavors about paid social and paid digital platforms.
No, that was really good information.
Yeah,
if anybody has any questions and they think of them after the fact, Craig gave you his way to get in contact with him. And if you can't get in contact with him, you can email us and I can connect the two of you. So with that being said, and with no other questions, I want to thank you, Craig, and thank everyone else for coming today. I will send out a copy of this recording